Greetings from Dallas.
Hello, Dallas.
It is good to see you again.
Thank you.
I'd like to begin. You're going to have your team introductions first.
We already did the introductions during our part of the ceremony.
All right, very good. Then we'll have you, we'll do our introductions real quickly. We have our tournament director, Frank Guadalupe, and coach, Roddy Milovanovic. And at this time, would you like to read the tournament rules?
All right. Okay. We would like to introduce our tournament director, international arbiter, Mr. Siniša Joksic, who will proceed now with the match rules. Dallas?
Good.
Well, after 4 matches, I don't know. It's everybody knows the rules much better than me. I just want to greet Frank. Welcome, Frank, again here. And I wish all the players very, very nice game. That's all from me now.
Thank you. All right. At this time, we'd like to have, on behalf of the U.S. Chess Federation, Frank Guadalupe say some words for our executive director, Bill Hall.
Thank you, Jim. I'm just going to read the letter that Bill Hall sent, and it's in your booklet. As the Executive Director of the United States Chess Federation, it is my sincere pleasure to welcome all of you to the 5th installment of this historic series between the University of Texas at Dallas in the United States and the University of Belgrade in Serbia. It brings me great joy when chess is used as an instrument to bring people together from all over the world. The competition is always fierce, but it is also a chance for us to celebrate the sport we all love. With this technological triumph in international competition, UT Dallas and University of Belgrade continue to be the leaders of the world, for the world demonstrating what can be. I applaud both of these fine institutions for all these efforts to reach out to these young people and to each other via this important match. These efforts will have a long-lasting impact on the lives of these participants, and thus the world's future as well. As a chess player, I personally look forward to following this match and future matches, and I appreciate the model for competition that has been formed here. Thank you, Jim Stallings and UT Dallas, for promoting this event and establishing a model program for collegiate chess. To all, good luck and good chess. Regards, Bill Hall, Executive Director of the United States Chess Federation. Thank you.
And with that, we'll once again have our University of Texas Dallas cheerleaders kick off this ceremony. Hey. All right. Back to Belgrade.
Thank you, Dallas. Cheerleaders are synonymous with team sport, so it is my pleasure to call our next speaker. It is our president of the Serbian Olympic Committee, a true legend, former NBA All-Star player, Mr. Vlade Divac.
It's a pleasure to be here today. Hopefully, I'm coming to the States next week and I'll bring the trophy back to Europe actually Since I retired, I had a lot of listeners to blue memories from Dallas beating Mavericks, so you guys. Anyway, good luck to all teams and enjoy the match today. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. And with that, I'd like to introduce our Associate Provost of Academic Affairs, Dr. Abby Kratz, to say a few words.
Okay. Those athletes are a very hard act to follow. I don't know. I just want to give greetings from the University of Texas at Dallas, from our Davison Auditorium here in the School of Management, where I hope many of you will consider coming to graduate school, and tell you once again how proud we are to participate in this event. This is the 5th consecutive tournament, and we're just thrilled that we're part of this. On my way over from my building, where I work many, many, many feet away across campus, I was able to enjoy the very beautiful new landscaping that was installed during the last 2 years here at UT Dallas. And the last thing I saw before I entered this building was our brand new chess pavilion with 4, count them, 4 chessboards there for outdoor play. I invite everyone to come and see that and realize that this is another representation of our commitment and confidence in the power of collegiate chess. We're so happy to have you here, and we are looking forward to seeing the players do their best in the tournament.
Okay, we're now back to Belgrade. Our next speaker is Vice Rector of the University of Belgrade, Dr. Marko Ivetic.
Hello, Dallas. It is my great pleasure to be again, like last year, to support Serbia and the team of the University of Belgrade. I hope that this year we will have more luck, and I have no doubts about good fighting spirit of our team. I wish a good game and better team to win. I hope it will be Serbia.
All right. Thank you. Back to Dallas. We'll now have a few words from State Representative Jerry Madden and also Richardson Mayor Gary Slagle.
On behalf of the Governor of Texas, Rick Perry, upon our Speaker, Joe Strauss, and so many of our other great Texans, let me say that this is a great tradition that we have here. As an old-time chess player who remembers when you made moves of pawn to king 4 or pawn to queen 4 or those kinds instead of the current technology and numbers, let me say that we've been doing this, and I've been honored to be here and make the moves for the University of Texas at Dallas for the last 4 years, and I will challenge. We'll look at board 2 since I'm making that move, and we have a perfect record on the boards that I've moved on. So we look forward to continuing that tradition. Also, we wish obviously all the players the very best, and that we hope that every one of them does absolutely their very best today. On behalf of the state of Texas, thank you all for being here, and we look forward to all of you coming and visiting the state of Texas.
Well, I'm Gary Slagle, the mayor of Richardson, and on behalf of the Richardson City Council and the citizens of our community, we just want to congratulate both teams, and wish all of you the best. I've enjoyed doing this, as had Representative Madden, for a number of years, and it's a great initiative and a great way to share, as someone said earlier, the love for chess across the world. So have a great competition, and we'll look forward to seeing the outcome.
Okay, we're now back to our host, Dr. Miloš Nedeljković. He is our State Secretary in the Ministry of Science and Technological Development, so I will leave you now in his capable hands.
Thank you, Ivan. Hello, brothers, for the 5th time in a row. So we hope that this time we will have once again a very nice match, and we hope that all the players will do their best. As I see in our audience, we have some of your previous players, like Bošković. He is down with us also here this evening, so I hope he will now help us to win this match this evening. On behalf of the Ministry of Science and Technological Development, I can say that the chess and this match is not just the chess match, this is also the test of technology and the science behind it. So practically we really, as a ministry, support this event, and we use this opportunity to congratulate to the people that are organizing this match in this pioneer job that they are doing. So greeting you all there in Dallas and wishing our team more success this time. I can say all the best for all of us. Thank you.
Jim, wish him more success, just not quite total success.
Thank you. Well, we certainly wish you success too, just not quite as much.
Okay, we have one more speaker that you know. So we would take this opportunity to have one speaker more. Is it okay?
Yes, okay.
Okay, we have with us the Secretary General of the European Chess Union, and her name is Sava Stojsavljević.
Very good. We like the European Chess Union.
Yes, since a month ago, the European Chess Union's central office is located in Belgrade. So Europe is located in Belgrade, not Belgrade in Europe. And as far as we know, UTD has a special cooperation with this office, considering some scholarships. But I will give the stand to Sava to say a few words to you. Thank you.
Hello, Dallas. Hello, Mr. Staling.
Hello, Sava.
Hi. As you can see, I prepared official speech, but I feel this atmosphere is very friendly, so I will just say a few words from my heart. I'm very proud to see that University of Belgrade is a good example how chess event can be organized on very high technological level. And from the other side, I want to thank to University of Dallas, and especially to you, Mr. Staling, for supporting youth players in Europe by awarding your special honorary scholarship. And I hope that our friendship and our cooperation will continue, and that we will for sure see in the future many great chess events organized by Belgrade University. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ivane, čekamo tačno vreme ili ne? Okay, what is your proposal? Should we start immediately or we wait for the exact time? Our proposal is to start immediately.
Very good.
Okay, considering statistics that we have checked, the last 4 matches over the Internet ICC Club, International Chess Club, the match was visited by 100,000 times. So it looks like that each match has 20,000 visitors and viewers. So it looks like all over the world we have a great interest. However, they can join us after 15 minutes. We shouldn't wait, I think.
Very good. It's good to hear.
Okay, then we start immediately on behalf of our side. so it will be 13th table. And I don't know, Sanja Vuksanovic would maybe have the opportunity, our woman grandmaster. She will also make one of the first moves on some table. I don't know which one. So we can start. I don't know your situation with the first move.
Yes, on board 2, making the first move will be State Representative Mr. Jerry Madden. On board 4 will be Richardson Mayor Mr. Gary Slagle. And on board 3 will be Associate Provost Dr. Abby Kratz.
Okay, then we start. Please start the games.
Good afternoon. Hopefully you enjoyed the opening ceremony for the 5th Annual Transatlantic Cup featuring the University of Texas at Dallas versus the University of Belgrade from Serbia in an exciting 16-board chess match. My name is Rodney Thomas. During the day, I'm a business unit executive with the IBM Corporation, but I'm also president of the Chess Program Advisory Board here at UTD. So I'll be your host for the commentary session. And joining me as an expert commentator is John Jacobs. And John, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Rodney, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. We've been doing this for how many years now? 3 or 4 years?
We're becoming sports commentators.
I'm John Jacobs. I was a chess player when I was a young person, won the Texas Junior and Texas State Championship a few times, have the title of FIDE Master. And in real life, I work for the Richardson Chamber of Commerce and do economic development for them.
Thanks, John. So I think the games have started, and while John's kind of tracking them down, let me just explain how the match is going to work for those who are new this year. As I mentioned, it's a 16-board match. The teams are not located in the same place. The UTD team is playing here in Richardson, Texas on the campus. And likewise, the Belgrade team is playing on their campus in Serbia. Now, there are 16 games that will go on simultaneously. The top board for each team plays each other. Board number 2 by chess ranking plays each other. They'll play one game. The games are timed, so each player has 45 minutes to make all the moves. And if they don't make all their moves within that time or the game isn't decided, you lose by time forfeit. So it's a fast-paced game, maybe not your grandfather's chess. We've typically had some very exciting matches. Now, we've had a few other people join us here, and let me introduce at this time our commentator, our expert commentator, Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez. Alejandro? Why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Well, hello. My name is Alejandro Ramirez. I am a chess grandmaster from Costa Rica. I'm a graduate student here in the Arts and Technology program, and this is my 5th year at ETD. A little bit to the right. Oh, here we go. Anyways, this is a great tradition. I have participated in it since it began in 2006. It really makes waves around the world. It's a very important match, and I'm very happy to be here commenting for you guys.
UTD has won the last 3 Transatlantic Cup matches. We lost the first one, so this is the 5th. And I think this year, when you look at the actual roster of the players, you would have to say that the UTD team has a rating disadvantage overall. We're fairly strong on the higher boards, so board 1, 2, 3. Then Serbia has some higher rated players in the middle, and as you get down towards the lower boards, they're significantly higher rated. However, you're talking about college students, you're talking about games played under a pretty fast time control for chess. So as these games start to heat up, some of that rating difference just kind of goes out the window, and it's going to be a matter of who executes the best, whose nerves are the best, and frankly, who maybe has a little bit of fortune breaking for them. We've seen that in the past. These matches often look like popcorn, where it heats up slowly, and then towards the last half hour, 45 minutes, everything starts popping. UTD, we do recruit from all over the world, and that includes the Dallas area. So Courtney is a young player who grew up here playing chess in the Dallas area, playing in all the local scholastic matches as well as scholastic tournaments in the United States. And not only is she a great chess player, but she's also a fantastic student. So this is her freshman year, and we're pretty excited about having her with the program.
Courtney Jameson with the white pieces against.
So this is a much more standard position. I can immediately recognize this came either out of a Nimzo Indian or Alpine Sicilian, or C3 Sicilian as it's called. Simply because of the isolated queen's pawn structure. You see that this pawn here on d4 has no defenders from side pawns, but is instead creating a lot of pressure on the center. White has to use this pawn to create good outposts for his knights, such as on e5, and force the black pieces to retreat. And this is what's been happening the entire game. Without having to go back into it, just look at the way that the black pieces are arranged. They're all in the back rank, they're all supporting its own pawn structure, and they are hoping that eventually they'll be able to untie themselves and wail on the defenseless d4 pawn in an endgame. Meanwhile, White is trying to create as much pressure as she can, and hopefully go for the throat, go for a quick kingside attack, and use the fact that the black pieces do not have enough space to maneuver comfortably and defend the king.
So Alejandro, what would be a good plan here for White? He's got all of his, or she has all of her pieces developed, but what next?
Well, this is actually another very personal thing on playing styles and how you want to continue these type of positions. Personally, I would be looking at the bishop b1 kind of maneuvers, trying to put the queen in front of the bishop, always creating those mate threats on h7. That is definitely something to look into. Black doesn't have an immediate threat, so there's just a lot of possibilities. I noticed that her king is on h1 instead of the more usual g1. I'm not entirely sure why that is. Maybe she's planning to play something more crazy like g4.
Is it totally ridiculous to think about White using pawn lever here and playing g4, g5?
You know, sometimes these ridiculous plans just work, and girls playing chess are known to be very aggressive over the board. So I'm really would not be that surprised if she plays g4. So here we were looking at this isolated pawn position around here. We left it off here. Jameson plays b4, trying to control the queen side. And let's just move ahead and see what happened. Since most of the games are finishing, let's just go over it quickly. There's really not that much to say. I think the black made the mistake of losing a pawn here on the queen side without too much to show for it. The pawn on a6 becomes a monster, and I'm sure will be really difficult for black to defend that. And now it's just all over the board. He has weaknesses everywhere. He's down 2 pawns. Yeah, this is just so bad. So bad. And I'm sure this was an easy victory. Oh, actually, I don't agree with that, but okay. Yeah, this was relatively an easy victory for UTD. Nice technique here, and a blunder in an already losing position. Yeah. So a solid win. Right, we see Julio Sadora here with White. This is actually a Nimzo Indian, which we saw in a previous game. Sal Bersis also played this, as I said. They have both been studying together, so they share a lot of their repertoire now. This is a more traditional Nimzo Indian than the previous one we saw. It has been played many times since the beginning of professional chess back in the 1900s. So it's not an unusual position, but it quickly deteriorates into kind of a chaotic game. Here, black played the knight to the edge here on a4, and it's kind of a questionable maneuver as the knight is not very well positioned. But I'm sure that he has some kind of plan. After b5 sacrificing a pawn, it becomes clear that Black is really trying to complicate matters from the get-go, and he's trying to get a lot of compensation for his sacrificed pawn. This doesn't. Sadora is clearly not afraid of this, and he just keeps developing as aggressively as possible, trying to find the best positions for his pieces. I have to say, I like Julio's position. I mean, the extra pawn is pretty solid, and he has the pair of bishops. So unless Black can really show something specific for the lack of material, he will be just flat out worse.
Attacking white queen. White moves his queen. Now black has to retreat his attack knight.
Now, Black in this position can't just passively play normal chess because he's down a pawn. So he has to open up the position as quickly as possible, use the fact that White still has not castled, therefore his king is stuck in the middle, and try to create some kind of counterplay against it.
And that's where we are. What does white do? The threat, obviously, black has his pawn takes pawn. So does white capture before that, or does he do something else?
Well, the problem right now is that obviously the pawn on e5 is hanging, just f takes e5 being a very strong threat. But there are a lot of solutions to it. I mean, one that comes to mind quickly is to play something on the lines of queen d4, reinforcing the dark squares. There's also queen h4 on the other side of the board, which attacks the h7 pawn to create some kind of counterplay. And on the other edge of the board, we have queen takes a7, that lonely pawn on the other side, which is well, it's pretty free. So they're all tempting options. Even taking the pawn on f6 is a viable possibility. So it's hard to say what he'll do. You see, Sadora will probably use a good amount of time in this position because it's one of those key moments where if he chooses the right path, he will just exert an enormous amount of pressure on his opponent. Well, actually, this game is pretty interesting. It's hard to say. Black's pawn on e4 is very strong. It's threatening to go to e3, where it will create a huge amount of threats. Sadora must be very careful of this pawn. On the other hand, he is up a pawn on the queen side, which means that if he manages to survive the onslaught by the e pawn, he will be able to win the endgame. But it just does not seem like he has enough resources to consolidate his forces. The black king is very active, the bishop is very powerful, and the knight, although it has a very nice square, is not really attacking anything. A nice trick here, though, is to play rook e3. And in case that white... Yeah, and that's what Sadora plays. And now the hope is that black plays the losing move, rook f8. After rook f8, simply rook takes e4 would be winning because of a double attack. But yeah, black easily sidesteps the trap and threatens to now bring his rook over to the f-file, the only open file on the entire board, and create even more threats against Sadora's king. I do have to say I like black's position better, but it's a very complicated endgame. I'm not entirely sure who's going to take this one. Actually, it might even be a draw after a couple of exchanges. Well, we see a very interesting position. Sadora's sacrificing his king side on the hopes that his queen side will be able to do the job. Look at his latest move. He brings down the knight that was strongly placed on c5 but not doing anything to a weaker point on e2, but where it is preventing the black rook from entering the queen side, and where it's holding a couple of important pawns. Now, I'm surprised a little bit by the fact that black decided not to take on h2. I don't like this g5 move. I think he should have taken as quickly as possible. Sadora setting up even more traps. After knight d4, the pawn on h2 is poisoned. He cannot take it. However, I do disagree with that move as well, as g4 might be strong. He might also be looking at the point of playing knight c6 check, after which black might have to take the knight with his bishop, and the passed pawn might create a lot of problems. Notice that the rook is very slow in defending. Black's actually at a very interesting crossroads. He might play g4, he might just retreat his king.
So white's actually a pawn ahead here. Black has a passed pawn in the center. White has actually a 3-1 pawn majority on the queen side that he needs to try to maybe convert to a passed pawn.
As soon as the passed pawn is converted on the queen side, it's very difficult to believe black will hold the game.
But it's it's going to be an interesting battle here over the next 3 minutes because White's going to be trying to maybe get his queenside pawns rolling, and Black's going to try to figure out a way maybe to force his king pawn through to the queen.
It's definitely a very tense position. It's difficult to play this with not that much time. White has to be very careful of that pawn, and it's very difficult to play against the knight when you're in time pressure, just because it's such a tricky piece. We see that we see Black locking his own rook on a2. The rook cannot move. Black is in virtual zugzwang. Zugzwang means that no move that he makes is good, or actually that any move that he plays is counterproductive. And I'm actually sure that White can just play rook back and forth and hope that Black is forced to worsen his position. Another interesting attempt would be to play rook e1 and rook a1, simply to trade those rooks, and then try to win the resulting endgame, the knight versus bishop endgame. I like White's chances now that Black mysteriously locked his rook on a2.
Exactly right. He's planning to trade rooks, apparently, get the rooks off the board, and then his king can stop this pawn, because if the pawn advances, the king can immediately play to d3 here.
Yeah, the pawn is not going to be an issue. It's just going to be an issue whether Black can hold the endgame or not. Well, I mean, I think this will be the second victory for UTD. I just don't think that Black has enough to hold onto the queen side. The passed pawn has been eliminated. This just looks really good for White. All he has to do is figure out in this strong time pressure how to hold his king side. If he manages to do that, we'll be in very, very good shape. He must play something, though. He has 10 seconds. Another interesting move. Look how the knight is using his power to keep the enemy king at bay. Now, he has to be very careful not to allow that king in. Once the king is in, he will create an immense amount of problems.
Black's coming in to capture, I guess, his pawn on h2, right, with his king.
Now, this is a fantastic idea. Look at what he's doing. He is going to chase the king. He will allow his king side to fall, but in turn, he will lock in the king, not allow him to move. The king will be forced to remain in the h1 and h2 squares, and the knight and the pawns will be enough to push the queen side through, and this is game over. This is definitely going to be a win for UTD, no doubt about it. It's just a pass, and it's a semi-desperate move. No real significance to it. Sadora can just pretty much play any move in this position and win.
Can he play knight c6 and go after the a pawn?
He can do that. He can do many other things. He's really not in any kind of pressure. He's going to take his time. He's going to choose the simplest path. He's in time pressure. He does not want to mess up anything, so he will simply choose the moves that seem most natural to him and the least risky. So see how the king is following the enemy? And now look how the king is completely... Now, although his pawn is close to queening, there's nothing he can do about it. Now the knight is coming over to protect the b7 square. He will then capture the enemy bishop, and with the other pawn, he will be able to win. Now, Black does have one resource left to him, is to play h2 and try to stalemate himself. However, this should not work, because as soon as Black tries to stalemate himself, he will be on danger of getting checkmated on f2. So, among other things, here knight takes g4 is the move that I'm expecting. And now, Sadora will simply push the pawn to g4 and checkmate Black with this knight, not even bothering to make a queen. This is, as I said, game over. Unfortunately for Black, this resource has not even come close to working. So look at this beautiful knight f1. I don't think he will bother to push the pawn, and boom, the knight is enough to checkmate.
Mate on g3 next move. Knight to g3 mate next move, right?
And black resigns.
Oh, great game.
Great game. Very nice.
First game that ended was International Master Sal versus with the exciting victory that we were looking at. And so now we have Sal with us. And Sal, if you do us the honor of taking us through your win.
Congratulations, International Master Sal versus.
So, yeah, me and Coach looked at his games, and he looked like he played either Benko or Nimzo. So I was actually kind of happy with Nimzo. Benko's more annoying to control. So yeah, he plays 96 line, which is actually really a shadow. Okay, it's actually really passive and it's other side completely. Okay. Yeah, it's actually very passive, and it's probably one of the worst lines in this. Well, besides B6. D6, G4. There's only one game, I think, by Chaltabashev, and he won easily. And for black to play, black has to react properly. Black.
Is this movie the one you prepared just for this game?
I was kind of looking at it before, and it just happened. This is just a good testing game, basically. I'm not really sure if it's good. Can you go back a moment? Yeah, so E5 is like one of the worst moves on the board right now. Black has to take the pawn, or maybe even play D5, which is actually very unnatural because you just play D6. Black has to take, and then Rook G1, and then E5, and it gets actually very complicated. So, yeah, E5. The idea is black never plays E5 before castling because after D5, which is my next move. Now the queen E4 tricks are alive, and the bishop is actually not very happy on B4, which is why the E5 is such a bad reaction to begin with.
So the tactical idea is this forces the knight to move. Once the knight moves, there's an open diagonal
Yes,
to
and
the
then
king,
queen E4.
and your queen can come up to A4 and check, and also the attacking the unprotected bishop.
Basically, the whole reason why E5 is just terrible. So knight D4, this is force, take, queen A4. I was expecting bishop D7, and then queen B4. Okay, now bishop D7. Queen B4, take the knight. But I guess G5 here is, I mean, in all lines I just play G5 and a black knight has to go to H5 to defend G7 pawn. So G5, C takes B, bishop, maybe queen B2. I'm not sure how I would take yet, but the idea is the knight has to go to H5 to defend G7 pawn, and the knight on H5 barely has barely any moves. So like after simple move like H4, let's say, to defend the G5 pawn, the knight on H5 is kind of misplaced, and just black's position is bad. Black's down a bishop pair, a center, and well, this is just bad. Here I thought that if I take on C3, he takes on G4 with a queen, and I mean, I'm still better, but I don't want to give him any life, so I just play G5. And yeah, so I think queen E3 is actually a good intermediate move here. Because now he can't play queen E7, because I take the knight with a check. So he's forced to play king D8. I think king F8 is slightly better to defend G7. I think he overlooked a lot. It's just, I mean, he overlooked, A5 is kind of useless move now that he sees queen E3. Maybe he now regrets playing A5, so. Yeah, rook E8, also another mistake. I don't know what he overlooked here. I mean, queen F3 just basically wins a pawn easily, and I don't know what he overlooked exactly. There's not much to overlook. Just bishop G7. I mean, queen E4 and queen B3 is just simple. And black's queen is neutralized. No attack, no nothing. Queen B4 check, take, trade, and F3. And now he can't take on G5. Let's say he played rook G8, which is the only move. Now bishop D4. If he takes on knight G5, just give a check on f6. King anywhere, rook, and I guess I can't play rook g1 yet. I guess I have to play king. Oh no, h4 wins. What am I talking about? Yeah, h4 just wins. So then the pawn is taboo. So basically, it's down a pawn, a pair of bishops, and it's only getting. And the b4 pawn is not really strong itself, so. Knight c5, h4, simple chess. Bishop d7. Yeah, pawn up, 2 bishops. I'm about to attack b4 pawn, so basically he has to make a choice whether to trade the b pawn for a pawn, which he actually never did. He decides to go for this opposite color bishop endgame, which is as lost as any other endgame. King b7, I think. Just take. If rook a8 here from g8, I just take on c5. No. Rook b4. You're right. No. Rook b4. I played rook b4. That's correct. No, you wrong arrow. Two back. If rook ga8, no, one more. Oh. King b7. No, he played king b7. Yeah, he played king b7. That's correct. No, king b7, rook b4. Instead of knight d3, if he plays rook ga8. Yes. Now the idea is he pressures my a2 pawn. I just simply take on c5, d takes c, rook b2. I'm up 2 pawns, and I'm just going to push my kingside pawns here. So, yeah, basically he went for the opposite color bishop in games. Which, yeah. You can, yeah. Just take. Bishop on d4 is actually the best piece right now. Pawn on e3 defends it perfectly, and it holds my position, and it keeps the pressure on b6 pawn. So you see I just pushed a4, a5, and it's simply just crushing. Now, the only move is c5, but, you know, it's all relative. He's losing no matter what he does. So just take. He tries to play for c4 pawn, but I just push to c5, and basically I have 3 extra pawns, and this is easy shipping, as our chess players would say.
So Sal, I remember last year you had this wild attacking late endgame.
Did I? I don't remember.
Where you were chasing each other around.
Oh yes, I remember that.
So this one actually is a more decisive, straightforward win, right? Where
I thought I was winning last year easily.
you won, but you went down to a lot of very tactical endgame where there were some traps that you were taking us away.
Oh yeah. Oh, I kind of remember, but oh yeah, it was complicated, but okay, it was complicated. You're right.
But from your perspective, you were winning the whole time, right?
Yes.
Okay, understood.
Okay, so
Well, thank you. Always good for an exciting game. Congratulations.
So we got Bercies with a win, Sadora with a win, and Jamieson with a win. Those are the 3 only wins for UTD. And we got 3 draws by Enderly, Safin, and Guadalupe. So that's 4.5 points right there.
So Robert's lost.
Yeah, so Robert's lost. So yeah, definitely the rating difference became a huge factor in the match, and Serbia takes the 5th one.
Well, there you have it. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to my colleagues John Jacobs and Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez.
Thank you for having me.
Till next year, enjoy chess.
Final result is 11.5, 4.5 for Belgrade University.
Congratulations, Belgrade.
Thank you very much.
Trophy will be in the mail.